G'day everyone, Dave Granville here, and I'm lucky enough to have Ross McCubbin with me here today. Rosco, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, so Coastwatch, you've had a very long relationship with Coastwatch, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I met Brownie probably 35 years ago. We used to fish in a few tournaments with Bobby Jones, and met him through that, and then started on the Coastwatch program and doing the reports the whole time and filming a fair few segments with Brownie, and yeah, it's been good.
Yes, I mean, obviously I grew up watching Coastwatch as a young fella, and I remember watching some of those early clips, and I mean, even to this day it's gold. I've put a couple of them up on the Facebook page recently, and even though it's 20 or what is it, 20, 25, 30-year-old footage, it's still, it's timeless, isn't it? And that's the beauty about the vault stuff. And in fact, one of the clips that I plan to bring out, with this podcast about you and Sally switchbaiting black marlin, that was one of my favourite segments ever.
Oh, that was such an awesome day, and it was, obviously I've known Sally a long time because of up the reef and through fishing, and Brownie organised for a day's marlin fishing, and we wanted to do something different, so we were switchbaiting then, and it was just a magic day. We got a couple of big wahoo early on the lures, and then put a scat. We had a leftover scat and I think a queenie as well, and as soon as we put them out, it was just action, just full on, and I think Sally caught 6 or 7 marlin in a couple of hours and a few nice ones. Yeah. We were having such a great day, and then it was only sort of lunchtime, and then the film crew, oh yeah, we've got enough, let's go home. And then Sally and I and Tony Crow was actually on the deck. That's we said, right. Let's keep going, we don't want to go in. And in the end, the film crew said, no, we want to go home. So yeah, but we finished up like catching 8 or 9 out of 8 or 9 bites, and that was years and years ago. Switchbaiting, which
was still, it hadn't really been, it was still early days, wasn't it?
That's right. It was so good. But and then I used to do a lot of stuff with Brownie too, because he was obviously on the news, and the weather would be terrible, and he'd be stuck for footage, and he'd ring me on a Friday morning, oh Ross, I need something. So I'd be out in the elephant, out to the bar, catch a couple of jacks or some dewies. But yeah, one thing about Brownie, he always liked having good current stuff on the Coastwatch, on the report. So we used to go and do it that day and be on that night.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. No, it was certainly current information. And I mean, to be honest, that's why we've brought the fishing report back as well, because obviously when I took over from Brownie, I had to rebuild the new website. The fishing report went with it temporarily, but I literally got emails every single day saying, where's the fishing report? Where's the fishing report? So, thankfully we've managed to bring it back. And, it's obviously a thing that people look forward to on a Thursday afternoon. So at least we've got current information, every Thursday. And it's good to have you back on that list as well, mate. So we'll be getting info from you every Thursday.
Yeah, that's good. As I said, it's good for people that are going out in the weekend to get current reports and not something that's just generated from, what happened this time last year or stuff like that, and the current conditions and.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the magazine reports are often, monthly and stuff like that. So, and while you can get a general idea of what you're going to catch when, knowing what was caught that week is a pretty handy thing to have, isn't it?
So, for sure, yeah.
So, and so tell us a little bit about Lucky Strike Charters. So how long you've been running it now?
Yeah, well, we might go back from the beginning. So when I was younger, we had a holiday house at Point Lookout, and obviously my dad was a very, very keen fisherman, so I used to fish. We used to go over there from Brisbane every weekend, so that's where I got my love from fishing. And then from then on, when I was at school, really I was wasting my time at school. I was just, couldn't wait to school to finish to get fishing, or I used to do a bit of sailing and surfing, so that was my passion. So school was really a waste of time. So when I left school, I was fortunate my parents bought a bait and tackle store, so I started working in there, digging 3,000-4,000 yabbies on a Friday and Saturday, and then digging wriggler worms after that, and then learned how to build rods. But the good thing about the tackle store, it introduced me to a lot of other fishermen, and the Gold Coast Sport Fishing Club were heavily involved in them, and I've got to meet people where I could go outside and do some game fishing. So that was the sort of start
That was
of that.
the introduction.
Yeah, and then when I was younger, actually, I used to get terribly seasick.
Okay.
So I can tell you some funny stories about that. My dad, we had a 12-foot brook, and we used to go off the beach at Point Lookout out around the rocks and that, and catch mackerel and snapper and all that sort of thing. But I'd get terribly crook. So Dad would come in behind the surf, make me jump out, watch me swim into the beach, and I'd have to walk home with my tail between my legs, which these days sounds pretty brutal, but I was happy to get in the water and get home. And so eventually, from doing that, and then, I started to cure the sickness, and I'd only get crook probably the first time, and then I'd eventually love it. And then, I think it was December, I don't know how many years ago, I was 16, I caught my first marlin trolling a skirt round the group at Point Lookout. So it was sort of the start. And then, as I said, at the shop, I got to meet a lot of people, and I was fortunate enough to meet a fairly rich guy from Melbourne, Jim Vernon, who just happened to buy a 53 Randall, which was called Mako, and Glenn Jones was leasing it to go up to Cairns. So I sort of begged and borrowed and stealed, and got to be a decky on there. So that was my introduction. We went down to Melbourne, got the boat with Glenn, and went all the way up to Cairns, did a whole full heavy tackle season up there. So it was a big learning curve.
That was a baptism of fire.
We actually had a famous fly fisherman from Florida, Alex McGrath, and we fly fished and caught possibly one of nearly the first sailfish on fly off Duncolin.
Okay.
And then did the full season up there, and then once I did the full season in Cairns, I was sort of hooked.
Yeah, well, it does that to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can heavy tackle fish on the Barrier Reef and not become hooked for life.
Yeah, then so by then the tackle shop had sold, and then I got an invitation to join a mullet netting crew at South Stradbroke with my friend Jack Choosley and a few of the real old time original fishermen for around Southport. So I started doing that, and I started loving that, and it started to fit in good with the game season, because that was in winter.
Gotcha. So
I could do the mullet season, then I could go to Cairns every year, and then I did that for a lot of years, and it was very, very, I learned a lot, because a lot of those old time fishermen, they know so many things about the weather and about the history of the Broadwater, a lot of stuff that you just can't learn about wind changes and signs that things are going to be happening. And then, of course, netting mullet on the beach is a whole new ball game. But that was really, really good. But then through the fishing, I got to meet Bill Bradnam, and then he decided to buy a game boat called Just Magic. And then he wanted me to virtually finish up running it. So at 22, I did my Master 5, and then I got one of the youngest persons to do their Master 5, and then we started off with Just Magic charters, and that was the start of the chartering off the Gold Coast. Yeah,
I reckon that must have been probably when I first met you, would have been around that time. I think you still had Just Magic, and then I was running Moe, the 38 Dominator for Klaus and stuff like that. So that was a few years ago, mate. So how long did you run that boat for?
Look, I ran that boat for about 4 or 5 years. We went to Cairns and did a couple of seasons, and then we used to fish a lot of the tournaments. And before that, I was also doing quite a bit of decking. I did a lot of days for Bill Edwards in the season down here, and we won a couple of Tangalooma tournaments. And then subsequently I got to meet Fergie and JD and all the guys, because in those days it was a big charter fleet out of Brisbane. So and a lot of the deckies, we used to jump from boat to boat, so it was really, really good learning, and it was good to be on the early parts of the blue marlin fishing, and the blacks used to be thick, and you'd be out there at the trench, there'd be 3 or 4 boats. There was no small boats in those days, so it was really, and it all worked in good, because I did that in the summer months. Then obviously had my mullet fishing. I had a small yellowfin that we used to commercially fish for snapper and pearl perch and mackerel down here. Used to take it up to Fraser and go up there for a month and fish for mackerel and that off Indian Head. So it all worked in good, and then, come June, July, we'd be getting ready back up to do the Cairns season, the dunk tournament. So it all worked in really, really, really good,
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, no, I remember your yellowfin as well. In fact, it features in quite a few of those early brownie segments, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, my father and I bought that boat off Tom Wild at Springwood Marine, and yeah, it was a sad day when we sold it, when my father was getting older, and we sold that, and I finished up using the money for that to buy my now estuary charter boat, which I do estuary charters in. But
yeah.
I've heard recently that it's down at Port Stephens somewhere, and it's still commercially fishing out on the shelf. But yeah, that boat was
bulletproof.
Oh, it was a self-drainer, and I could fish in 15 to 20 out in 50 fathoms, and catch a couple of 100 kilos of snapper and pearlies, and feel safe as.
Imagine how many fish would come over the side of that boat.
Yeah, it was great fun. I used to go out, and then all my mates, I'd rope them into it. The same old thing that you have to do commercial. Oh, come out, you can take a feed home, but I'd be a hard taskmaster telling them to catch fish. But yeah, it's sort of commercial fishing and the charter fishing and the game fishing all ties in together, because you learn so much. Commercial fishing's a fairly hard game. If you don't catch fish, you don't get paid. Whereas charter fishing, you can have an odd day, but so many times you look back at things, oh, when I was commercial fishing, this is what I did that day to get a lot of fish, and then you can tie it into the game.
There's no doubt. Like natural, environmental conditions and, natural indicators all play a part, don't they? And when you're on the water every day, it becomes second nature, doesn't it? And that's what makes you a good fisherman.
Yeah. And then, obviously I work for Bobby Jones up north, and he sort of started the same time as I did, so it was a big learning curve, and we had Innkeeper up at Lizard Island. We had a good season up there. And then the next year I was lucky enough, all these opportunities become, when you're in the environment, you meet people, and I'd met Laurie Woodbridge up in Darwin, and I kept pestering him and got a job on the Sea Baby for a season, and that was really, really, really a big learning curve for me. Laurie is such a good fisherman and was so way ahead of his time, and he had one of the I remember he had a Fruno FE400 paper sounder, and even then he was marking marlin and sailfish on that many years ago. And one thing that that I learned off Ward was marking fish, and that's now 25 years, 30 years ago. No one was doing it, but we were doing it then, and it's helped so much. And also Wood is also a very good barra fisherman. He's a good all-round fishing, and I learnt so much about tide changes and moon phases and stuff like that. But it's like anything. If you're a sponge and you're down there and you're very keen and you got good skippers and that, you'll learn. You're better off just not saying. Wood would never say too much, but you just have to sit there and take it all in and put it in the memory bank.
No, there's no doubt about it. And you're right. Generally, like the best captains, crewmen, anglers, just fishermen in general, are the ones that can just sit and watch and learn, aren't they? And as you say, they're normally, if you're a good marlin fisherman, they're also a good barra fisherman or a good whiting fisherman. It doesn't really matter. And sure, there's people that just, it's like marlin or nothing, but guys like you and me, we're just as happy to go and catch a feed of whiting like me, you love your barra fishing as well. And it's amazing how you can, even though it's a totally different type of fishing, you can still bring those same environmental things into play, can't you? And say, and it could be something as simple as a tide change, but just being able to look at the water and say something's going on here,
Yeah, that's for sure. And I love all types of fishing, and I've been fortunate. I've done what I've loved all my life. Sure, there's hard times when you're commercial fishing, not catching anything, or chartering, and when the weather's rough. But all in all, I've had a blessed life, and I've really enjoyed being on the water. And these days, as I said, I've got my small estuary charter boat, and I take young kids out and catching their first big whiting. It's all still fun. And then of course the barra fishing, I love getting up to Darwin barra fishing. I've guided at a few places up there, and let me tell you, saltwater barra fishing, that's something that'll really test you. It's there's so much about reading sounders, reading the water, going in rivers and seeing the water quality. when marlin fishing is, when the marlin are around and it's all good, basically you can go out there and,
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's always the cream rises to the top and, catch more fish. But when the marlin are around, you can virtually go out there and, look at where the other boats and troll around and you get bites. But a lot of the other type of fishing, you'll catch nothing.
No, I've noticed that as well. Like, I'll say all day, every day that marlin fishing's way easier than barramundi fishing. Like, not just saltwater barramundi, bloody impoundment barras as well. I've been doing a fair bit of that lately, and it does your head in, but it's the challenge that drives you. If it was easy, it's like, oh, well, been there, done that. But, I just love the challenge, and it doesn't matter what type of fish it is. If you give yourself a goal to have a target species and go and chase it, and then you get it, it's pretty rewarding.
It's it's really good, and that's what I love about charter fishing, is taking people out, and as you know, a lot of the time now we're doing a lot of switch baiting, and you get people on there and they look at you sideways when you've got a lure out with no hook in, and it's, what's happening here? But then a couple of hours later, you've had a marlin come up, eat the switch bait, you've teased him back of the boat, the guy's dropped the livey in front of his mouth, and they just, a lot of the times they can't even talk. They can't believe that you can get the marlin that close to the boat, and it's so much fun.
Oh, it's best ever. I mean, there's no secret. It's my certainly preferred way of catching marlin, that's for sure, and has been for a long time, and that probably stemmed from, riding along with, guys like Dean Butler and that when he was fly fishing with Tom Evans and that, and it was like, well, geez, if you can get them to eat a fly, it's not too hard to get them to eat a live bait or a skip bait, is it? So.
Yeah, well, that's what, a lot of new people, there's a lot of information out there, but as you say, when you do a lot of teaser, record and fly fishing, you're generally only trolling 2 rods, and you will get just as many bites as a boat out there with 5 or 6 rods, and that's what I sort of try and tell a lot of new people in their small boats. Keep your lines to a minimum amount, especially if you're blue marlin fishing, because you get a big one on, you've got to wind in 2 people and you've got to wind in 4 lines and 2 teasers. But and teaser fishing is great, but for some instances, lure fishing, I don't use any teasers at all. I just use lures for blues, but then other times teasers are good,
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I've always said that your boat's your biggest teaser, and I generally only troll, 2-3 rods max, I think, or a teaser and a couple of rods, and as you say, you get just as many bites. But I don't know, there's that little bit of a mentality that more is better, but all it does is, basically cause more confusion sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, my preferred technique these days is I usually run, my bridge teaser with a teaser on, a teaser down for the decky, and then I usually run a small lure with a hook in it with a piece of wire in it way out from the action. And for charter fishing, it's a good setup because a lot of the times you'll get wahoo, dolphin fish on your long shotgun lure, and you do get quite a few marlin, but I've sort of gone to very small hooks, 6/0 hooks, and even the hookup rate seems to be good on that. And then occasionally you'll get a fish come and eat the teaser, then fades off, and next thing your shotty goes off and you got him on there. So it's a great way of fishing, but it would be hard. It's not hard to do in a little boat, but the electric reels make it really good.
Yeah. So basically with the charters, of course, if it's a billfish charter, but you're running that lure out the back, at least it brings the bycatch into play. So if they can take home a dolphin fish or a wahoo or something like that, it just adds to the day then, I guess. So everyone likes to take home a feed of fish when they've had a day on a charter boat, don't they?
That's right. Yeah, and dolly and wahoo doesn't get much better, but I'll still live bait these days too. But it's sort of sometimes hard for me because I was the first one ever to fish at Spot X, and I would troll around there a lot, and if you're marking a lot of fish and not getting many bites, well, you might drop a couple of liveys down. But unfortunately, these days, everyone, as soon as they get in their boat, their mentality, we're going to go to Spot X, jig some liveys, drop them down, and drift down, which at times is a good way to catch fish, but to me, it's fairly boring when you drop it down with a big lead, get it down there, and of course the sharks are getting worse and worse, so it sort of feeding into their things, and it's the visual of trolling and seeing a marlin come up and the spread is lost.
There's nothing better, there's no doubt about it. So talking about sharks, have you actually been losing billfish to sharks, or?
Look, not yet, but so a lot of the sharks out there at Spot X are more focused on eating the live baits, so they're eating the live baits. But I did have a striped tuna the other day that I hooked while trolling around, and a shark ate that. But on our mackerel fishing inshore, the sharks are just there's all these new things about fish numbers and that, but I really do believe that we should be trying to reduce the sharks that are eating fish from boats before we do anything. There's just
there does seem to be an imbalance, doesn't there? There's too many people are experiencing that interaction. So
not even at the Gold Coast they're bad, at Brisbane they're bad, everywhere right around Australia. Barra fishing in rivers, and it's learned behaviour by the sharks. And it's just they're waiting for you to hook a fish, which is, the amount of fish that are getting eaten every day is bad,
Yeah. No, I was up in Harvey Bay recently, and it was out of control up there. You hook a golden trevally or anything off the bottom, and your chances of getting it to the boat are pretty slim. So it's a shame. It's a shame because you don't like wasting good fish.
No.
Anyway, so what would your percentage be? Is it basically weather related? So if you got good weather, you're fishing offshore, and if you're not so good weather, you do inshore charters?
Yeah, well, predominantly I like to be out offshore in the big boat, but I do have a few clients that have kids, and they like taking their kids down the pin in the little boat. And the little boat is I've turned 60 this year, so a day in the little boat for a 6-hour charter is a very enjoyable day. I'm lucky I got my boat at home on the pontoon. I leave at 5:30 and I'm sort of cleaned up by 1:30. It's good. Whereas the big boat, you're up at 4:30, you're down here at 5:30 getting ready, and you're off at 5:30, 6 by the time you get home. But still, I enjoy all types of fishing, but a good day's marlin fishing when it's calm and they're biting is probably still one of my favourites. And I do love blue marlin fishing too. And last year we had some really, really good blue marlin. We were getting 10 or 12 bites a day, and when you got a nice day and that's good too.
Doesn't get much better than that.
But saying that, I still I have a lot of clients in the winter that like their bottom fishing, like taking a feeder fish. So I sort of specialise in pearlies and snapper and float lining, and that's enjoyable too. So it's all enjoyable, and it's all, when you wake up in the morning, you're happy to be doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I suppose that diversity is pretty handy to have as a charter operator, because when you do have options, it pretty much means you can fish all year and obviously make some money. Like at the end of the day, there's a lot of expenses involved with running charter boats, and in certain places the weather can completely wreck you. But having options and different species to target obviously is an advantage, and obviously the Gold Coast gives you access to that.
Yeah, it's I'm very happy. I'm happy with the Lucky Striker 34 Black Watch with the open bulkhead. It's, to me, for up to 6 people, it's a perfect boat for down at the Gold Coast. It covers all areas, and it's not that expensive to run, and it's fairly easy to run. It's a simple, easy boat that doesn't cost a lot of money to run, and it's fast to clean up. So to me, it's an ideal boat. They're a good sea boat. It's really good. But I've clients that have fished with me for 30 years, and I sort of, sometimes when the weather's a bit dodgy, I'll ring them up and say, look, it's not going to be a good day, you can go, or you don't have to go, whatever. So I believe if I don't want to be out there, possibly the clients, whereas a lot of other people would probably go, and, it makes a difference. But as I said, it's more of a lifestyle for me. I'm sort of fairly lucky that I'm fairly set up. I've got a investment property and a few other things, so I'm just happy to do whatever, but if I can get 3 or 4 days on the big boat and maybe 1 or 2 days in the little boat, I'm happy. But as you say, the weather can stuff that. You can not go out for weeks on end, but then if I'm not going out on a charter, I'll be with the dogs in the little boat catching a flatty or a whiting. So
catching a feed.
So it's good.
You can't get it out of your system.
No,
for sure.
No.
And as far as the Gold Coast goes, you've been here a long time now. Like, have you noticed, the fishing get better or worse or the same, or like, do you think, like, has it got harder for you to, obviously the boat traffic and population has, you know, increased dramatically, but has that had a major impact on the fishing as well?
Yeah, well, you know, for snapper and pearl perch and bottom fishing, obviously with the invent of the Seaway years ago, and then these days good sounders and GPSs and information that's freely available has impacted, because, you know, obviously the fish aren't there like they used to be, but the fish that are there, they're a lot smarter, so you've got to continually evolve, use lighter line, smaller sinkers, different areas, and for those type of fish, probably so, but also a lot of charters' expectations these days are a lot less than they used to be in the old days, you know.
Okay.
If people didn't get their bag limit of everything in the old days, they were disappointed, where a lot of people these days are happy to get one or two nice fish each, and,
Gotcha.
and they're happy. But yeah, but then as far as that's on the bottom fishing side, but as far as pelagic fish, I don't think it's changed. You have good years. Like this year, the marlin fishing hasn't been as good, but there's lots and lots of slimy out there, which is a good sign.
Yeah, it still could happen, yeah.
I'm still confident it could be good, but generally, you know, you can catch marlin any month of the year off the Gold Coast, and I personally would like to do, you know, maybe a whole season just marlin fishing, because a lot of the times in winter when we're bottom fishing, we're getting marlin on left, right and centre, and you're not geared up to do it, not doing it. So it could be because, you know, as we know, the black marlin go down the coast. Well, if they go down, they've got to come back. Yeah.
And then, of course, that in that cooler water, the striped marlin come into play as well, don't they?
Yeah, so, striped marlin and yellowfin in winter, and then you've got a chance of, you know, blues anytime. But, yeah, probably, you know, one of my goals would be to catch a real big blue one day, and, you know, as you know, I was out with Bobby, and we did have the monster on, and that was unbelievable having that fish on and seeing it. But in all reality, we were probably never in a position to catch it, but to see it and to see how big it was, and to have it on the leader a lot of times and see it at the boat in beautiful conditions, you know, there is some big blues out there, so yeah, that would be so good to catch one of them.
Yeah, no, I'm the same, mate. I've seen a couple of nice ones out here, but nothing as big as that fish that you saw that day. I might even try and grab the footage so I can show the folks at home. But anyway, mate, look, it's been an awesome chat. I really have enjoyed the insight into you know, a bit of Ross McCubbin's history, and I can't believe you're 60, mate. Geez, you're looking good.
Yeah, well, as I said, I go by the old "life's been good to me" song. I'm pretty happy and very happy, and I love fishing, and I like to think myself as an all-round fisher. You know, I've got flathead classic trophies at home. I've got barra classic trophies at home. You know, I like catching big whiting on the flats. I love any type of fishing. If anyone wants to do anything, any type of fishing, I can show them to it. You know.
No, you're definitely the quintessential all-rounder, mate. There's no doubt about that. So, speaking of which, if someone wants to look at chartering you, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty lucky that I'm fairly busy, but just usually on Facebook, on Ross McCubbin or Lucky Strike, you can have a look at the big boat and the little boat and the catches and stuff like that. So,
no worries.
All good.
Yep, and obviously, look out in the Coastwatch weekly report for your reports.
Yeah, looking forward to doing a bit of stuff in the future with you, Dave.
Yeah, sounds great, mate. Awesome, Rosco. Cheers, mate.